Longest Day, Longest Night by Rainbow Double Dash. Chapter 2. Many Meanings. Now you just wait one cockin' minute! The orange earth pony, Applejack, objected, pointing a hoof at Trixie. I don't know where y'all think you could just change the way things have been for centuries. Well, here in Ponyville, the longest night is an ample family night. Not this year, Trixie objected, staring at the hoof pointed at her, and wondering when the last time she heard such a thick country drawl was. Less than an hour ago, she had been chatting pleasantly with Carrot Top over a simple lunch the Earth Pony had prepared for her and Lyra. Now, she felt like she was involved in a physical wrestling match. A wrestling match that could go south real fast, given that the entire Apple clan, it seemed, was just in the next room at the Apple's surprisingly modestly sized estate. I like apples as much as the next pony, but the thought of eating apples all day, just apples, no. I like a little variety to my festivals. Just what gives you the rats? Applejack demanded, leaning forward sternly. Trixie straightened herself. Not what, she clarified. Who? Her Majesty, Equestria, Shepherd of the Moon, Caretaker's Son, Mistress of the Star Beast, Sovereign of the Three Tribes, Ruler of Equestria, my mentor, and your princess! It was Trixie's turn to jab at the hoof at the obstinate pony. As her appointed festival overseer, I have final say as to what can go into catering, and what I say is that there's not going to be just apples, but carrots, grapes, pears, celery, broccoli, and baked goods that don't have apples in them, and anything else any pony wants. Applejack fumed. Well, the pony said, tipping her Stetson hat over her eyes, y'all may be able to say what you want in, but the plain and simple truth, concerned, is that the other farms ain't got the stockpiles. Applejack beamed as though in victory, tapping a hoof firmly on the wooden floor of the living area they were in, probably to indicate the expansive storehouse that lay beneath their hooves. We've been preparing all year. Got a special hoard saved since the last harvest, carefully preserved to be up to the finest apple standards and using only the best apples we could buck. Applejack's smile turned back into an icy glare, significantly colder than the weather outside. No pony else will be able to match the quality. They just pile up their stock and freeze them and hope for the best. I'm sure they'll be able to dig out something, Trixie insisted. And you think Her Majesty, Princess Equestria, Shepherd of the Moon, and so on and so forth, will be okay with just any old thing that's been dug out? Trixie blinked a few times at that. The Earth Pony, unfortunately, had her there. For an immortal alicorn, or perhaps because she was an immortal alicorn, the princess was an extremely picky eater. It was her one major flaw. Now look, Applejack said, her tone changing from anger to a more conciliatory one. I'm sure y'all came here with the best of intentions, but my family running the longest night is just the way things have been done around here. The way things always get done. We need them to keep sales to keep Sweet Apple Acres up and running smoothly. We can't have any other farms just get into our profits. Trixie's eyes widened a little at that. The Apple Trust has been a near-complete monopoly on all apples in all of Equestria! She exclaimed. She jabbed a hoof past Applejack at the living area where the rest of the Apple clan, plus Lyra, were waiting, and probably listening in on every word. How could she possibly make the farm thing? Applejack interrupted. I don't expect a fancy Carolot mare. Actually, I'm from the Orleans. Well, I'm sorry for my assumption, but I don't expect any city mare to understand the delicate situation the Apple clan is in. Farms are always on the edge of disaster. One blight could ruin the whole harvest season. Darn near did back when I was just a little fella. A blight spread to almost every apple farm in the country. If it weren't for a godly bit of foresight and saving that for that very predicament, why, the entire Apple Trust might have been under. Trixie found that hard to believe. Not the nationwide blight, as he had fake memories of that back before he had become Luna's protege, rather than had ever seriously cut into the Apple Trust coffers. Even if it was true, with their near total monopoly on apples, the Trust would have been in a better position than any other apple farming family to recover from the blight. If anything, it had probably driven their last true competition out of business. Trixie let out a sigh. This Applejack was stubborn as a mule. She wasn't going to change her mind anytime soon, no matter what tack she took. Fine, Trixie conceded at length. Fine. I'll just pack a lunch or bring my own snacks or something to the longest night. Applejack beamed at her victory. I don't think we'll disappoint Miss Trixie. Never have. This ain't the first time Princess Luna's had the longest night at Ponyville, and she'll come away smiling like a schoolboy every time. Trixie nodded. Fine, she repeated, as the two trotted out of the room they had been in and into the living room. Trixie made a conscientious effort to keep her eyes on the floor and ignore a significant number of glares she was getting from the Apple clan for what she had said during the overheard conversation. Thanks for the food, I guess. If you excuse me, I have a lot to do. She made her way over to Lyra, who had already putting her gassy cat and wool cloak back on, and was standing near the door. The door was blocked, however, by a small filly with a red mane and straw-colored coat. She was glaring at Trixie, stuck her tongue out in a very pointed and determined fashion, blowing a raspberry at the unicorn. I have a blame! Applejack's voice objected. Oh, science! The small filly objected strongly. Why can't you just let her go as I answer? Yeah, blame? Yes, okay. The orange mare explained, trotting over to the filly, scooting her out of the way of the door. Lyra and Trixie both gave polite goodbyes and left as quickly as possible. The two were silent for several minutes as they trudged along the snow-bordered dirt path before Lyra looked over to Trixie. Was that filly going to suggest getting you tarred and feathered? She asked. Of course not, Trixie answered, doing nothing to keep the bitterness from her voice. She was going to suggest I be lynched. Ah, Lyra said, nodding sagely. She sighed a moment later. Look, you tried. I'm not gonna lie. I was not expecting that from you. I think it's great and all that you were trying to get that carrot farmer a place in the longest night. But that's not how things happen in Ponyville. Trixie made a face. I wasn't doing it for her, she responded. I mean, okay, yeah. It'd be great for her business, and for the looks of things, she needed it. But I wasn't doing it for her. I was doing it for me. She looked to Lyra. I mean, try to imagine eating an apple that has been chopped up, mixed with broccoli and alfalfa seeds and poppy seeds, and drenched in butter. My gosh, alfalfa is a hard word to say, and I mean a whole stick of butter, real butter, not that fake stuff they have nowadays, and breadcrumbs, and then the whole thing fried up. Oh, and eggs, 2 eggs, scrambled, mixed. Lyra blinked a few times at the thoroughly bizarre-sounding dish. I'm having an easy time imagining not eating an apple like that, actually. Huh, Trixie replied, honestly surprised. That doesn't sound delicious? No. Huh. There was a drawn-out silence between the two, before Lyra finally broke it. So, nowhere? She asked. Well, after that fiasco, I'm in the mood for something easy. So, I guess Weather Patrol, if you can find it. Lyra mumbled something under her breath at Trixie's last comment, which Trixie chose to ignore. Back to town, the mint-green unicorn proclaimed, as the two began trotting back towards Ponyville proper. Rainbow Dash! If you don't get your polygrammic flag in here, hello there. In 5 minutes, then I'm going to quit and take the entire team with me! The jasmine-colored blue-maned Pegasus with 3 drops of water for a cutie mark shouted at the top of her lungs after throwing open the door to the Weather Patrol station, just as Trixie was about to knock on it. She had only been able to dodge out of the way of being killed by blunt force trauma at the door. The two unicorns stared, wide-eyed, at the Pegasus, frozen in place. The Pegasus, for her part, had her gray-blue eyes focused intently on the winter sky. She breathed deeply, apparently waiting for some pony named Rainbow Dash. Lyra said at length, breaking the silence. Hi? Hello. The Pegasus repeated, not breaking contact with the sky. What are you here for? Lyra turned to Trixie, and cleared her throat a little. My name is Trixie. I'm the new representative of Luna's Night Court to Ponyville. The festival overseer? The Pegasus guessed. Yes. I just thought I'd stop by and see how the weather patrol was doing. She looked up at the wintry sky, which was marred by a few cirrus clouds, but otherwise was a clear, perfect blue. And everything seems to be just fine, actually. The Pegasus blinked a few times, tearing her eyes away from the sky, glaring at Trixie. Fine? She demanded. Fine? Well, there are a few clouds, Trixie admitted, but you've got 2 days to clear them, and I don't imagine it'll be very hard to keep new ones from forming. The Pegasus leaned forward. Are you serious? She demanded, then looked to Lyra, wings fluttering in agitation. Is she serious? Everything isn't fine. There's a storm building over the Everfree right now, probably coming this way, and our weather manager has disappeared! Again! She paused a moment. Raindrops, by the way. Hi! The Pegasus turned around and stopped inside the tall spire near Ponyville's center that was the Waterfall Patrol Station, the tallest structure in Ponyville. She didn't close the door behind her, so Trixie decided to take that as an invitation to enter, with Lyra following. Inside, the tower was mostly hollow space, with various Pegasi flittering about in the upper levels, looking over charts and maps and planets that were plastered across the buildings and their walls. All in all, there were maybe 2,000 Pegasi in the station, all of them looking extraordinarily busy, and none of them looking particularly coordinated. Trixie heard several statements along the lines of, all our plans are ruined! It happened. It would be just before the longest night begins. And, most commonly, where in the princess's name is Rainbow Dash? So, Trixie said, as she trotted up next to the raindrops before the Pegasi could fly straight up and away. Why are you making a storm in the Everfree Forest if it's going to be such a problem? Raindrop's eyes widened at that. Why are we... She began to shook her mane. Right. New here. We don't make the weather in the Everfree. Then who does? Nobody does. The Everfree just does what the Everfree wants. Trixie blinked a few times as she tried to wrap her mind around that one. The weather just happens on its own? She asked. Raindrops wickered in annoyance. Don't know why. Best us weather ponies could do is just deal with it as it rolls over. Good news is that once it leaves Everfree's airspace, we can work with it again. Bad news, of course, is being that until it does, there's a thing we can do about it. Meaning some very large storms can build up. Raindrops gestured half-heartedly to the Ponyvillian wearer team. You're looking at the most overworked, underappreciated ponies in Equestria. Trixie couldn't help but notice a slight tug at the corner of Raindrop's lips as he said that. If forced to hazard a guess, the unicorn would have ventured that Raindrops, despite her complaining, enjoyed the job and the challenge it presented. The unicorn trotted over to one wall, where a map of the Everfree Forest had been set up, and a weather diagram the likes of which Trixie had never seen before placed next to it. The diagram made mention of air pressure, humidity, average temperature, and something called forecast of the Everfree's of upcoming weather. Their diagram also made it pretty clear that it was all just a bunch of guesswork. You people out there in the audience that are currently listening to this, please put your own weather station or weatherman joke here. I am not doing your efforts. That's useless now, Raindrops answered as she came up alongside Trixie, freezing up a hoof and tearing down the weather program and tossing it to the nearby garbage bin. The Everfree looked like it was going to be pretty quiet. Then this heat wave came out of nowhere a few days ago, started messing up everything. Hot air for the Everfree is mixing in with the cold air for the rest of Equestria. There might be a thunderstorm, a blizzard, tornado, hurricane. I don't know what's brewing in there. But it's going to be arriving soon, if we're lucky. It won't hit until after the longest night has passed. She paused a moment, considering her own words. But we're not lucky. If your weather manager has disappeared at a time like this, Trixie asked incredulously. Raindrop's almost smile disappeared, replaced by a rather firm frown as her wings sagged. Rainbow Dash! She just up and disappeared after her last shift! Disappeared? Lyra asked. Trixie jumped, having forgotten her fellow unicorn was nearby. But Raindrop seemed to take the mint-green pony's appearance in easy stride. Pop! Gone! I'm not worried. She does this all the time. But she has a real knack for picking the worst possible times. Raindrop shook her mane. She's the fastest flyer in Equestria. Brags about that a lot, but I've seen her move, and it's the Star and Sword Tooth. When the Everfree storm hits, we'll need her. Once again, Raindrops considered her own words. Not that she'll be here. Without her here leading us, Cloudkicker's the one in charge, but... She pointed a hoof upwards. Flitting about from one pony in one station to the next was a Pegasus mare with a gray coat and a yellow mane and tail. Looking incredibly frazzled and talking incoherently to each pony she met. Raindrops watched her passively for a few moments. She doesn't take pressure well, the Pegasus said. Lyra and Trixie looked between each other, the latter beginning to suspect that Raindrops' name and cutie mark didn't simply represent a talent for making precipitation. Well, Trixie said, tipping her hat a little, you have a lot of work to do. I'll leave you to it. Thanks. We'll do what we can for the festival, just no promises. Raindrops offered a resigned hug. Shrug. The two unicorns made their way from the weather season, Trixie wearing a grimace that could have done Raindrops proud. So, she said, nothing but apples in a few days. Plus, we might all die in a blizzard, or get sucked up in a tornado, or struck by lightning. This is shaping up nicely. Lyra frowned herself. Yeah, I'm not liking this job very much, the pony said. I think I'd rather just had the longest night come and have it all collapse around me, rather than seeing it fall to pieces ahead of time. Trixie glared at Lyra, but to her surprise, the other unicorn offered a somewhat playful bump with one shoulder. Calm down, the unicorn insisted. It's not your fault. No, but as the overseer, I'm going to be blamed for it, Trixie pointed out, sighing. I wonder if Luna knew that everything was going to the sun and back here and sent me here because of it. That seems kind of mean, Lyra said, making a face at the thought of the princess so needlessly cruel. Despite the implications, however, it didn't seem beyond the realm of possibility. If anything, it fit right in with the stories of the political sniping and shadowing games that was the food and drink of the night court of Luna. She was less than happy with me the last time we spoke, Trixie said. After the Ice Palace thing, we got into an argument about how I'm not taking my studies seriously anymore. And I said it's because none of it mattered. She looked to Lyra. I mean, you've got a musical education and a direction you want your life to move in. Me, all I've had to look forward to was another year of the same stuff. It was getting old. So, you think Princess Luna set you up to fail? Lyra asked. Wouldn't put it past her. Trixie mulled this stuff for a few minutes, then shook her mane. Whatever. Let's just move on to the decorations. It's supposed to be overseen by some unicorn pony named Rarity. Lyra's trotting faltered for a moment at that. Ugh! She groaned, turning down a path with Trixie in tow. She began chanting a number to herself. A large, round number it was, coincidentally. The payment she was receiving from Luna to serve as Trixie's escort. So, you know her, Trixie guessed. Lyra grounded her teeth together. Yes! She declared. No! The white unicorn said in a firm voice. No, no, no! You simply cannot wear that and stumble around town anymore! Trixie's eyes were wide as she reared up on her hind legs, using a hoof to try to fend off her attacker. I like my hat and cape! Yes, I'm sure they're fine if you want to try out circus attraction! Rarity proclaimed as she closed in, horn glowing as she levitated measuring tape, scissors, and fabric. But if you're going to be our new noble representative of the Night Court... Princess Luna didn't ennoble me. I mean noble as a metaphor, darling. Gallant, upright, dignified. All these things and more which you most certainly are not will wear those rags. Trixie leapt backwards. No easy feat when standing on only two legs, and let her own horn glow beneath her hat, calling up a solid blue bubble of arcane energy around herself, just as the measuring tape held by Rarity lunged, and smacked harmlessly against Trixie's impromptu shield. These aren't rags! Trixie proclaimed, and they match my eyes and coat perfectly. They're both enchanted several times over, making them worth far more than their weight in gold! Trixie paused, then let out a long sigh as she remembered a few details about the spell she cast. And you can't hear me because the bubble is airtight. Great. Rarity was still poised on the other side of the shield, talking fervently to Lyra as the musician tried to calm down the designer, but the white unicorn's eyes hadn't left their deathlock on Trixie's own. At a guess, Trixie was supposed that she had about 5 minutes of air inside the bubble, and briefly entertained the idea of letting herself suffocate before remembering that wouldn't work. As soon as she lost consciousness, the spell would fail, and she would be helpless while Rarity would be free to do things to her. Horrible, unspeakable things. Like, try and put her in something funny. Or Luna forbid a dress. Trixie still waited until the air began to get stale, before letting her sail fade away. Rarity didn't lunge immediately, which Trixie took as a good sign. I'm not here for a nigger! Trixie said, slowly and determinedly. I'm here to see how the decorations are coming. Rarity pouted. Well, of course they're coming along just magnificently, darling. The pony said. Her horn glowed once more, and Trixie flinched. But the unicorn had merely grabbed an overlarge sketchbook, which she opened to a page and presented to Trixie. Inside of it, she had used pencils of various colors to sketch out a remarkably detailed picture of Ponyville's town hall, the large auditorium of which would be hosting the opening ceremonies of Longest Night. The auditorium had been bedecked in with various banners, curtains, tassels, and other fineries, with stalls set up along the edges to provide food and drinks for the ponies. The stage, meanwhile, was dominated by the flag of Equestria hanging down from its center, a stylized 8-armed blue sun with a darker crescent moon inside of it, with horns pointing downwards, tucked between the horns of the moon in a single white star. It was a beautiful drawing. It was, however, just a drawing. Trixie looked at Rarity, eyebrow raised. That's nice, she said, but how far along with this are you? Oh, just about fit as a cost, Rarity said, floating the sketch away. In fact, I shall be putting the finishing touches on it later tonight. You could stop by then if you like, say around sundown, or you could come by tomorrow perhaps. We could spend the midday together. Trixie debated whether she'd rather be trapped outside or trapped with Rarity during the midday, and found both thoughts equally unpleasant. Tomorrow, but probably after midday, say around 2 o'clock. The white unicorn pouted a little. Very well, Miss Trixie, she said. I'll see you then. Trixie turned to leave, but then stopped when she heard Rarity add, "And I'll be sure to bring some emergency fast supplies with me. You can keep the clown suit if you really want. But eyes, a mane, and a coat like that shouldn't really be wasted by someone in your position." Trixie's eyes were slightly larger than dinner plates as he fled to Carousel Boutique, Rarity's home and store, at a full gallop. Lyra caught up with only some effort as Trixie stopped at a tree outside that she had ducked and hid behind, albeit not very well. "And now you know," Lyra said with a laugh. Trixie glared at Lyra. "You," she hissed. "You enjoyed that, didn't you?" "Maybe a little," Lyra laughed, pulling down the brim of her Gatsby. While Rarity had made a few comments about her own choice of dress, she had been entirely focused on Trixie when she learned who the Blue Unicorn was and was doing in Ponyville. "Lighten up, Trixie. The Rarity at least seems to have all the decorations and perfect—" "Oh, hi, Shirley!" Lyra's gaze turned to the magenta earth pony with pink hair, wearing a warm-looking wool coat and cap ensemble. The pony paused at the sight of Lyra before a wide grin split her features. "Lyra!" she exclaimed, trotting up to the unicorn as Lyra did likewise. "When did you get back to Ponyville?" "A few hours ago," Lyra admitted as the two nuzzled affectionately, clearly old friends. "I'm showing Trixie around town." "Oh!" Lyra took a step away from Charlie and pointed to Trixie. "Charlie, this is Trixie. She's going to be the representative of Luna's Night Court to Ponyville." She held out a hoof when Charlie started to bow respectfully. "Don't do that. She isn't a noble, and enjoys seeing ponies do that way too much." Trixie pouted slightly, but found herself doing it mostly for show, rather than putting away any actual feeling behind it. "Trixie, this is Shirley. She's my second oldest friend here in Ponyville, and she's studying to be a school teacher." Charlie's smile dropped at that, and looked down. "Oh, I guess you didn't hear. I'm not studying for that anymore." Lyra blinked a few times. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, looking mortified. "I didn't, because I graduated and run Ponyville's elementary school now." Charlie exclaimed, smile returning with full force, beaming like the stars. Lyra and Shirley both made sounds that were just inside Trixie's range of hearing, but well inside her audio pain threshold. She put her hose to her ears as she waited for the two friends to stop squealing with joy and prancing around with each other. "Congratulations," Trixie ventured at the first opportunity. Charlie offered a polite nod at that, but then turned back to Lyra, clearly intent on catching up with her old friend. "So, have you seen Bonbon yet?" Lyra shook her head, and one of Trixie's eyebrows raised as she noticed Lyra's smile shifted from joy at seeing an old friend to embarrassed yet wishful, and also began to blush a color that matched Shirley's coat. Trixie decided to mentally file that away as interesting as she wants to. "I've been dragging Trixie around town," Lyra said, gesturing to her companion. "And it's been 3 years since I've seen her. I mean, I really had a chance to see her, not just a quick weekend visit, and I don't just want to show up in—" Lyra was interrupted by Charlie pointing a hoof on her shoulder. Her own smile had shifted to be warm and caring. "Stop avoiding her," she advised. "She's been waiting long enough." Lyra blinked at that, before nodding fervently. "Right. No problem." "Anyway," Charlie said, pointing a hoof past Lyra in a Carousel Boutique, "I've had an appointment to keep about the decorations." Her voice betrayed no love lost for Rarity. Something else which Trixie decided to file away as interesting. "I'll see you around, Lyra, but not before you've seen Bonbon." She turned to Trixie. "And you too, Representative," she said, offering a deep, overly formal bow before taking off. Trixie blinked a few times. She said, turning around to get ready to trot to her next station. I've got my bow in spite of your best stars above! The exclamation came as he found herself face to face, noses touching even, with a blue-eyed, pink-colored Moni, who seemed to be staring into her soul. Trixie stumbled backwards, and thankfully the pink pony didn't move. Trixie stared at the pony. She began. The pink pony let out a gigantic gasp. And then suddenly sped off, running away at speeds Trixie thought only Pegasi were capable of pulling, and quickly disappearing into Ponyville. The blue unicorn blinked, trying to force her heart to stop attempting to burst from her chest at the shock she had just received. She noticed Lyra standing back at her, her own eyes wide, but with a look of bitter defeat on her face. I'm sorry. The unicorn apologized, as though her aunt and uncle had died. I am so sorry. Oh god, I love pink